Hi, everyone, and welcome to the AI Experience News Roundup. Julian read everything so you don't have to, and I'm here to bring you the most relevant AI stories you probably haven't seen, all in under 10 minutes. Let's dive in.
If you think about what happened from GPT-3 to 3.5 to 4, it just got smarter.
The field became known as artificial intelligence.
Can machines really think?
At what point does a chatbot stop being a tool and become a place where people pour their whole lives? In an article from the Wall Street Journal, the analysis of 47,000 public ChatGPT conversations reveals something far more intimate than anyone expected. These exchanges show that people don't just use AI to summarize texts or organize tasks. They use it as an emotional partner, sometimes even as a confidant that reinforces their beliefs. The article notes that almost 10% of the conversations deal with emotions or personal distress. Some users talk to ChatGPT like it's a close partner, give it nicknames, or share serious family problems. OpenAI estimates that 1 million users every week show signs of emotional dependence or deep vulnerability, a number that raises real concerns. Another key point is ChatGPT's habit of saying yes more often than no. According to the analysis, the model begins its answers with some form of agreement 10 times more often than disagreement. This means that when a user starts drifting toward a biased idea or a conspiracy theory, the AI can follow their lead and even validate it, sometimes in extreme ways. The Wall Street Journal also highlights something very concrete: the huge amount of sensitive data users share, emails, phone numbers, addresses, legal details, personal stories. None of this is anonymous, and it can be used to train future models or accessed during official investigations. The value of the article is that it shows very clearly how the relationship between humans and AI has changed. A tool built to help generate text has become, in practice, an emotional and relational space. What happens to a whole generation when AI starts by removing the very first step on the career ladder? In an article from New York Magazine, James D. Walsh explains how artificial intelligence is slowly eating away at entry-level jobs. Those roles that were supposed to help young workers prove themselves before taking on real responsibility. The main thread of the piece is simple and unsettling. Young graduates are helping to build AI systems, and those same systems end up shutting the door behind them. The story begins with Donald King, a PwC consultant who became a data scientist in the firm's global AI factory. His job was to deploy autonomous AI agents able to do the work of dozens of employees, even to the point of pretending to be a real colleague inside Microsoft Teams. The goal was clear: help clients do more with less by cutting 30% of both their internal teams and the consulting teams working for them. King won an internal hackathon, presented his project in front of 70,000 employees, and was laid off 2 hours later. In his words, "I basically fed myself into the AI meat grinder." The journalist then zooms out. Mass layoffs across major companies, executives openly admitting that AI allows them to reduce headcount, and a study from Stanford's Digital Economy Lab showing a significant and disproportionate impact on workers aged 22 to 25 in AI-exposed fields, especially junior developers. Jobs for young coders have dropped by about 20%, partly because entire tasks can now be done through vibe coding and autonomous agents. What makes the article especially powerful is the shift in perspective it offers. For some business leaders, AI is a chance to perform a complete reset of the labor market, to the point where one of them claims there's now no real reason to deal with young employees. Behind that statement lies a bigger question. If artificial intelligence removes the entry steps of a career, who will train the managers and specialists of tomorrow, and what real-world experience will the future of work be built on? What happens when artificial intelligence doesn't just distort results, but also corrupts the research meant to study it? In a Wall Street Journal article about Aidan Toner Rogers, we learn how a 27-year-old MIT PhD student went from rising star in economics to a symbol of scientific fraud in the age of AI, all in just a few months. His paper, presented as a real-world study inside a major materials science company, claimed that AI boosted productivity, encouraged innovation, while also being unpopular among employees. It was the perfect mix: balanced, reassuring, and quickly cited in Congress, discussed at the National Bureau of Economic Research, and highlighted by Nature. But something didn't add up. An AI expert, Charles Elkin, read the study and found the technical story hard to believe. The more people looked, the more problems appeared. The company described in the paper didn't exist. MIT eventually disowned the paper, saying it had no confidence in the data or the truthfulness of the research. Earlier drafts showed suspicious shifts in the numbers, and Toner Rogers admitted in a WhatsApp message that he had committed a huge and embarrassing act of dishonesty. What makes this story important isn't just the individual fraud. It exposes a deeper context: an academic culture built on trust, intense pressure to produce spectacular AI research quickly, and a total lack of transparency around corporate datasets. Even highly respected economists were convinced by a study that turned out to be entirely fabricated. Now MIT is talking about checking raw data and raising standards. And maybe that's the real message of the article. As AI promises to reshape the economy, the question isn't only what it will do to workers, but how far we're willing to go to produce results that are too good to be true. Is artificial intelligence really the reason jobs are disappearing, or just a convenient excuse for massive restructuring? According to a report from Challenger, Gray, and Christmas, there's a striking number to look at. Since the start of the year, U.S. companies have blamed 48,278 layoffs on artificial intelligence. It sounds huge, but it's misleading without context. The report shows that 60% of these AI-related layoffs were announced in October alone, a month when job cuts surged across many sectors. And even though companies mention AI in their statements, it's not the main driver. In reality, reasons like business closures, restructuring, voluntary staff reductions, and economic conditions appear far more often than automation or AI. This is where the analysis gets interesting. The numbers and the narrative don't match. The report doesn't show a wave of jobs truly destroyed by AI. Instead, it shows a wave of layoffs where AI becomes a convenient label. In other words, yes, some roles are probably being automated, but the AI explanation also makes harsh cuts easier to justify publicly. So the most likely story isn't a sudden explosion of automation. It's a post-pandemic correction. After years of overhiring, especially in tech, companies are adjusting. And AI gives them a simple, modern, almost untouchable explanation, far easier than admitting to poor workforce planning. What if the real challenge for newsrooms isn't AI itself, but our failure to truly understand it? In a France Television article about the Journalism AI Festival, we learn how newsrooms are trying to bring generative AI into their daily work. The main theme is clear: a mix of practical excitement and tough honesty, with one big question everywhere: how do we move from quick experiments to real, well-managed use? The article starts with a blunt observation. Most journalists still don't really understand AI. Chris Moran from The Guardian describes a kind of collective immaturity. Reporters test a model, find an error, turn it into a dramatic story, but never actually learn how these systems work. For him, the priority is simple: training, guidance, and, above all, giving journalists enough time to build real skills. Another major issue is partnerships with tech giants. Liz Loan from the Financial Times says media organizations can't hesitate anymore. Some tools are better and faster when developed with AI companies. The FT even signed a strategic agreement with OpenAI to reach younger readers, a group traditional media are losing quickly. The article then gives a wide range of practical experiments. At the BBC, an AI-powered content management system helps local reporters write in the BBC style. At the Financial Times, AI-generated questions added to articles increase comments by 3.5%. At the European Correspondent, an in-house editorial assistant helps improve drafts and adapt stories for readers across Europe. At Gubby Labs in India, AI cuts the analysis of scientific papers from 2 weeks to 3 hours thanks to a newsworthiness index that decides if a paper is worth covering. All these examples point to the same idea: AI isn't a replacement for journalists. It's a multiplier of editorial attention, as long as humans stay in control. The goal isn't to build an AI product that will save journalism, but to raise the level of thinking about what meaningful innovation in journalism could become. That wraps up this week's AI Roundup. Julian will be back on Sunday with a new interview in English or in French, and I'll return for the next news digest soon. If you're enjoying the show, those 5-star ratings really help. See you soon.